Welcome back, everybody. I'm John with WIO Support. Today, we've got a fantastic conversation about encryption, safety, and how some people are no longer safe. But if this is the first time watching, we're going to have a conversation between us, and we invite you to join along. There's some comments below. Fill them out if you choose. If you've happened to miss this on a live stream, we'll actually circle back and bring up comments in later broadcasts. With me today, we've got Mike.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
We got Jackson
Hey guys, how's it going?
and Artie.
Good evening, everybody, or afternoon.
Little guy. Good morning, good evening, and good night. Artie's the man behind the scenes, making sure everything's running, keep the wings on the plane, as it were. You'll see him pop out behind the not curtain, might as well be a curtain, behind the monitor. So, without jumping too far into segues, let's jump into our main story. So the UK put out a law, and I'm going to paraphrase probably badly here. The UK put out a law that said something to the effect of all manufacturers need to give us worldwide access to the encryption for all communications in their devices. So let's single out Apple because they're the ones that made this public, and I'd say fight for privacy and security more than anybody else.
We don't know who made it public because there's a provision in the law that says that if you are served with this, you cannot discuss it. So the person that reported on it was anonymous. It could have been somebody from within the government. It could have been somebody within Apple. We do not know.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening to think that a government can serve papers to Apple, Google, Meta, anybody, and say you need to give us unencrypted access to everybody in the world, not just UK. That was the shocking thing, guys. It was worldwide customers, every single person with an Apple phone. So Apple took a good response to this and said, well, we'd rather you not. Now, there's news today. I don't want to touch that yet. But Apple said, UK, you're overstepping your bounds. I heard something interesting today. There was a bipartisan declaration, and I love the way they said it. This is akin to a cyberattack on other countries, because the UK is trying to get unencrypted access to everybody's device behind the scenes. It's more frightening that they're saying you can't disclose that you're opening up your back doors for us.
Yeah, there's just so many things wrong with this. Where to even start? But it makes me wonder if this is the first time this has happened, and if it is the first time, what is going to be other countries' response? For example, the U.S., how many government employees are using an iPhone? And so that's a huge national security risk. Is does another government have access to your government employees' information unencrypted like that, just because they say so? And so I think it's good that this has come to light, but I'm concerned as to how long this has been going on, and what other companies' responses have been.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of frightening to have such an open-ended, give me a master key to every building and every door in the entire world. Like
and you can't tell anybody.
That's too much. Yeah, and don't tell anybody. That's too much.
So, Artie, tell us, what exactly was Apple's response?
Oh, I absolutely love how they worded it.
It's gonna be good.
So, Apple has committed an act of malicious compliance. And it's one of the most glorious acts of malicious compliance because they are staying within the bounds of what's required by the law. And they are gravely disappointed that the protections given by the ADP, which is their advanced data protection, will not be available to our customers in the UK, given the continuing rise of data breaches and other threats to customer privacy.
So they
We have
essentially
stated
said,
many times before, we have never built a backdoor or master key to any of our products or services, and we never will. So what they essentially did was they turned off the use of ADP in the UK.
So how much is encrypted in the UK on an Apple device?
Nothing now. It's all gone.
There are a few things that are still going to be encrypted, and that is stuff that is required by UK law to remain encrypted, like health and financial stuff. But
Which is
Your-
an
your
interesting juxtaposition.
iCloud, your photos, your chat history, no longer encrypted. I think it's going to be kind of funny that somebody going from iPhone to iPhone is no longer going to have that blue bubble.
that is crazy. But that is only. I guess here's the other thing: if the UK is demanding it on, say, worldwide users, wouldn't that also mean that Apple would have to deny that service to any US, worldwide? Or is
No,
there
'cause-
some reservation there that's only applying?
So it's if you're going to do business in our borders, you have to follow our laws. And so Apple is saying, okay, you want backdoor access to our master encryption? Well, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. And you're definitely not getting outside your borders with this. How about we just don't offer this as a product in your country?
Well,
Right.
I guess that brings up the question, how has Google, how has Samsung, how has everyone else been responding to this? Is this the
Nobody's
only
publicly
response
done
we've
it.
seen?
Apple's the only one that stepped forward. And like I already said, we don't know who actually called it out. But Apple got in the crosshairs pretty quick, especially since Apple has been so strong against giving backdoor or side door access to their systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's that instant a few years back where the FBI wanted to get access to an assailant's phone, and they tried to get court orders to have Apple make them a backdoor, and Apple didn't back down. They won the lawsuits and everything, and the FBI, I think halfway through the lawsuit, contracted another company to break into it for like $1 million. So it's doable, it's just pricey.
If you're
Yeah.
a really good hacker, you can make really good money.
Reminds me of the whole DigiKey thing. Was like, oh, DigiKey's broken. And it's like, yeah, if you break the DigiKey and yeah, it's that same kind of thing. Like, nothing is completely impenetrable, but that's why you're
Nothing-
always, doing the best you can.
Nothing is foolproof to a sufficiently talented fool.
This is so true. Just
Well, it's an interesting. Go ahead.
hand a computer program over to anyone who's never really used a computer very much, and they'll find all the ways that you thought were impossible for them to break it. They will break it every one of those ways. It's absolutely true. You'll be sitting there looking like, how did you even, how?
It's like speedrunners clipping out of the world on Half-Life.
Mm-hmm.
Portal.
I remember back to when I was younger. John would disable his computer. He would find ways to prevent the computer from turning on. I would undo it and turn the computer on.
Oh, I was so mad. Oh, every day I found new ways. Like I turned the text black on black, and he would figure out that I had done that and get around it. This is before the internet, guys.
That's great.
Put in a BIOS password, bypass the BIOS.
He did.
That's funny. Well, getting back to this whole encryption thing,
Nothing survives Artie's attacks.
So, Artie, what you're telling
You
me
have been
is you can
warned.
get into an iPhone. So, I mean, I guess that brings up the question now. Would you rather not have the possibility to encrypt anything like Apple's offering now, or not offering, I should say? Or would you rather them say, okay, we'll encrypt your stuff, but your government gets the encryption key? I mean, which would you rather have? Be told that there's no encryption and it is how it is, or
So there's an interesting phrase that's tossed around, and it's kind of glib the way it's tossed around. It's like, I don't have anything to hide.
mm-hmm.
Guess who said that? Like wide publicized. Guess who said, I've got nothing to hide? Doesn't matter. Okay, prepare to be demonetized. We're going back to Goebbels.
Goebbels.
Yeah,
Never even heard of that.
He was one
Oh.
of the ranking officials in Germany during World War II.
During the really bad dark years. He was the one that was in charge of the media, the publicist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got that perspective. I don't have anything to hide. Well, okay. How much money's in your bank account? What's your social security number? What was your mother's maiden name?
Well,
you do have something to hide. Oh, okay.
Well, the idea being that the first thing I think people think of is that I've done nothing wrong. There's nothing I have to hide to incriminate me for wrongdoing, right?
Mhm.
Which is probably true for a lot of people. That generally, I like to think that most people live pretty good lives and that they haven't really done anything super embarrassing, or anything that they would want to keep secret or hidden from other people. But then when it starts to get into, like, what do you consider privacy? What do you consider private? And when you start realizing that you don't really want people knowing how much is in your bank account, or you don't really want people to know every move you're making every day, every hour, every minute, every day, then you realize, like, actually, wait, there's a lot more that I hold private that I didn't really realize that I hold private. You know,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be anybody else's business, what kind of food you like to eat or whatever. I mean, now if you're posting on social media, then you accept those risks of posting such information on social media and advertising it to the world. Maybe you make money on the fact that you go out and try a whole bunch of different kinds of food and you eat weird things all the time or something like that. I don't know. But there's an accepted risk. Like, once you make that choice, you've accepted that risk that my privacy is now, and this thing is no longer a thing. I'm making it publicly available, and I'm going to use it to my advantage. But I think in the
Onion
back of
rings at
everybody's
A&W.
mind, they still think that I might make that publicly available, but there's still a lot of other things that I want to keep private. I want to keep my family private. I don't want people to know about what my kids are doing, what my wife does, and da 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 da. You know?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if it
Well,
isn't for something incriminating that's going to land you in jail, why does the government need to know that, or anybody else for that matter?
well,
Well-
let's flip it around. Let's flip it around. You've got another famous person in history, Joseph Stalin, said, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime."
Mm-hmm.
Something
You get
that
in
I'd
somebody's
also
life with a microscope. Go ahead.
I'd like to, in the same vein of what Mike was talking about, there was a psychiatrist or a psychologist who got an elf on a shelf. Now,
Mhm.
for people that don't know what the elf on a shelf is, it's a horrible,
He'll come
horrible
for you.
little elf that you put on the shelf, and it's supposed to watch the kids. And this psychologist noticed that after they got one and told the kids what it was, the kids were petrified of doing anything. It changed their behavior so drastically that
Good
it
or
was
bad?
bad.
Yeah,
They
but petrified of doing anything good or bad, because
Yeah,
kids are like, well, what if I make a mistake? Right?
exactly. So the kids were just they've gotten to the state of just paranoia all day because they think that this thing is watching them, and there is a massive just psychological impact if you know that you are being observed all the time. Like if you went home and you knew that somebody was, watching you through cameras in your house, you're going to act completely different. You're not going to feel like you can relax. So,
Well, and worse than that,
yeah,
if you're locked into that mode 24/7, you become that persona, right? And then it becomes very hard to break out and actually be natural and free.
it's how you
So
breed
I think what we're
a race of
I think what we're
neurotics.
talking about, maybe, or people that just don't care about privacy, which I think that's almost worse. If people say, I don't care what you get into my life, I've got nothing to hide. That kind of complacency is super dangerous. I mean, we're fortunate to live in a country where probable cause precedes search and seizure. UK doesn't have that kind of thing. You are guilty when you're brought before the court and you have to prove your innocence. Well, what if your phone has all kinds of data points that say you're probably guilty of a thing, or you were in proximity of somebody who did something wrong, and they just prove that you were there and you were knowledgeable of the situation, therefore you're complicit, therefore you're on trial for it as well.
What is it? It's coincidence does not equal causality or something like that.
It should be.
Relation does not equal
Yeah,
causation.
correlation. Yeah, correlation does not equal causation. And that, yeah, because the more, I mean, and that's the scary thing with these computers. I mean, processing power is increasing, memory and storage is increasing. And so all these data points, we have this capability of storing and processing more and more data points every single year.
Mhm.
And that's not even getting into quantum computing, which is, oh my gosh, that's going to be maybe a little bit of a nightmare. But what do I do during the day that to a computer it might make it look like that I'm guilty of something? I mean, really, just because I decide to turn left on the sidewalk instead of walking to the right or something, I don't know. And that might be a little bit extreme, but that's kind of the idea, is that people happen to be at a certain location at a certain time. Does that mean they're now a suspect for something? That something went, when something happened? I don't know.
Some people have
Well,
ended up as suspects because their cell phone was flagged at like 3 different locations that were, to the investigators, unrelated, but to the person it was just like that's their way home. They stop off here, they stop off there, and yeah. So it's
years ago, I used to travel for work for my put in tech labs everywhere. I was at 4 different places where the president flew in and did site visits. Like I was within hundreds of yards in 4 different places. And after I crossed the 4th one, it's like, oh golly, I'm now on a list. There's no way I'm not on a list. I mean, it was all in the space of like 3 months.
Yeah, and I wanna go back to something that Mike was saying. Actually, he's talking about how we're generating more and more data on everyone every year, right? And
Mhm.
the first image that came to my mind was I was actually looking at a 3D scan recently, um, and I was just like, it just wasn't quite right. I was like, man, it'd be nice if we could get a higher resolution of this, and I could actually kind of see what's going on here. And I'm just, that same thought popped up, and I was like, that's the same thing that's going on right now. As every company on the planet is collecting more and more data points about you and your life, it's like they're getting a higher resolution scan of who you are, and what's going on. And then I was reminded of this other thing that I saw recently that's just also making me worry a little bit. My parents were actually offered from their internet service provider a new router with a couple of new features that would actually itself would act as a motion detector in your living room, because they found a way to repurpose Wi-Fi to actually see what's going on in your room. It's essentially acting as a 3D scanner. And then I was talking about this. I was like, wait a minute, that's really scary. Now they're mapping the inside of your house, right? Or they can. I'm not saying that they are, but I mean, these are all things that are coming to reality, and it's very concerning to think that everyone is getting a higher resolution image of who you are, what you do, physically where you're at all the time. And then when you add on top of it, okay, and now encryption is not a thing. I mean, it's just ludicrous.
Well, and let's put some real information to this. So the LAPD, they ended a program. This goes back to 2021. I'm looking at the Guardian. LAPD ended predictive policing program amid outcry. And then Argentina right now, back in August last year, they plan to use AI to predict crimes and help prevent them.
Didn't I see a movie about that?
Yeah, it's literally turning into that movie. What's the name
Minority
of it?
Report.
Minority Report.
Yes, that's right.
But instead of
Oh,
using
man.
mystics, we're just going to get into your phone and scan it constantly.
Essentially, thought crime. You haven't committed the crime, but we have things that say that you might, therefore you're guilty.
You
Yeah,
haven't
and
done it yet.
It's going to be decided by that same AI that told you to put glue on your pizza.
It's not as tasty as it sounded. Anyway.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
There are some pizza chains where it tastes like the cheese is actually glue.
Cheese does seem kind of plasticky sometimes. But I digress.
But going back a bit to
Go ahead.
Going back a bit to the encryption being turned off in the UK. Now, probably about I want to say 10 years ago or so, there was a massive data breach of the Apple iCloud. You had people's private photographs being taken by a group of people that gained access to it, and then they distributed them online. And, celebrities, regular people, just everybody, all their pictures out there. And it was about that time that I recall Apple decided, okay, we're going to take strong measures against this. Those measures are now no longer in effect in the UK. So that will also affect anybody that is traveling to the UK, because the services will not be offered while you're there. So you're going to have to take the risk of turning off the iCloud sync, or the ADP, and being able to access the files. So,
and it's not just iPhones, right?
That we know
it's
of.
Your tablets, it's your MacBooks.
Mm-hmm.
It's your entire Apple experience. If you're on the iCloud, you're open. Well, you're not open. You're not totally exposed. Your newbies aren't going to be able to hack into that. But your mid-grade hackers looking up exploits from yesteryear, or even using ChatGPT to generate exploits. It's what an interesting decision this is. I think you're going to see. I'll make a prediction. I think you're going to see some people get hacked in some very high-profile things. You're going to see the media hang on to that, and you're going to see people backlash and say, end-to-end encryption has to be there, and there cannot be a political door back into any of the these sites.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing. I mean, everyone in the UK should pretty much just assume that their stuff is not encrypted anymore because there's a backdoor, and when there's a backdoor, it means that there's gonna be a hacker who's gonna exploit it and get in there. So I mean, just that
And look,
sucks, but
look
I
at
mean, you
Salt
kind of
Typhoon.
yeah, that's all it takes. And so it's ridiculous that any government would presume that it's safe with them, right? Or any organization to presume that your encrypted data is safe with them, if they themselves have access. Because there's no telling, and especially with an organization as large as the government, I mean, there are so many points of access.
Well, here's a physical version of that. Do you know what a Knox box is?
I don't.
Mike, you should know
I-
that one.
Oh, this sounds familiar. I can't remember though. It sounds like that's an old term though, from way a long time ago.
Nope, it's current.
No, current.
To
What is
build a
it?
building, you have to have one. Artie, do you know that one?
This one eludes me.
Knox box. It's that little box with the red stripe next to the front door of every building. The fire department has a key to that box.
Oh,
Inside that
okay.
box
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
key to your business.
Right.
So, with one key, the fire department can get into any building because they need to put out fires and save lives. It's code. It's required. Absolutely a thing. It's a good idea. I believe it was City of Baltimore, and I might be wrong. Apologize if I'm wrong. They were missing 7,000 Knox keys.
Uh-oh.
Like
We don't know
fire
where they are.
department, they're like they just made a ton of copies, and they're like, oh, they're gone.
Oh, I lost it. I need another one. How do you rekey a city? So, I mean, you got potential miscreants out there with keys in whatever city it is. If you get the key to that Knox box, you got the key to every business. Now, there's alarms inside these buildings. There's hopefully, some other security layer besides just unlocking the front door.
I don't
However,
know. Jeez, like a fire in the building. Good grief! Just bust down the door. I mean, there's already damage my insurance has to cover anyway. You might as well just bust down the door.
Yeah.
Or break a window or whatever you have to do to get inside. I don't.
Mhm.
It kind of seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
if you got
we need a
hardened
key.
door that
We put out the fire, but we couldn't get in because we didn't have a key. Like, really? Like, the fire just gutted the entire inside of the building. You're worried about breaking a door? Like, really?
Well, if
Door
you got a
is the
good
only thing
strong
left standing.
front door,
Yeah, wouldn't that be something, Artie?
just go through the wall.
Well, I wonder if that's also, now that I think about it, although this could be completely wrong. You know how they always send a fire truck out with an ambulance?
Mhm.
Does that have anything to do with it? I wonder. If an ambulance needs to
Um,
get into somewhere.
No, it's usually because the
Many
fire
reasons.
trucks are closer. In most cities, they can get there quicker than the ambulance can get there. So they arrive. They provide first response assistance.
That makes sense, son. But it was funny that just came up because I was literally talking to somebody today, and he was like, "Yeah, I was at a fire department, just taking like a tour or whatever." And he tried asking the guy, he's like, "Hey, so why do you guys always have to go with an ambulance? Like, even though it's like totally unnecessary, like, didn't need it." And he's like, "Oh, well, the code requires that we do it." And he goes, "Yeah, but why?" And then he goes, "Well, there's a code, and the code requires." And he's like, "Well, why the code?" And, he's like, "Because." And so it was just funny. I was
There's many reasons. So if you got an ambulance, it's not a public service. Firemen
No.
are public servants.
True.
Ambulances are private. So if there's a door to break down, ambulance company can't break down the door. Firemen can. Or Knox box. We'll just let myself in. Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's some reasons that not everybody's aware of on codes, but the majority of codes came from lawsuits. I'll tell you that.
For deaths.
Or death. And subsequent lawsuits.
So who has to die for this next one for the UK?
I don't know,
Hopefully
but
nobody.
I hope it doesn't get
Nobody
there.
has to die.
But
you know,
you're gonna see some serious compromise on some financial institutions. You're gonna see compromise in some very wealthy people, and you're gonna see a lot of people say, "Give me back my privacy. Give me back my security."
the other thing that comes to mind is that there's probably going to be an increase of third-party encryption software usage over there. That that the company that makes the software isn't based in the UK, so the UK can't demand that they get a backdoor into the software that is made in like South Africa or Australia or
But
the
Mhm.
US.
Yep.
could they block its download though? I mean, look at the US. We've banned TikTok, right? You go to
Well,
Google
tried.
Play
Have we?
or anything.
It's back.
Well, you can't get it the normal way that you would normally get it. I can't go to Google Play on my Android. I'd imagine
I
your
hate to-
Apple Store doesn't have it, but I'm sure you can get your own package somehow and get back into it. But for the time being, TikTok is not something that is allowed in the United States.
I hate to say it, Mike, but it's now back on the Play Store and the App Store.
Yeah.
It's been for about a week.
Oh, really? How'd they get
Yeah,
around that?
Our president is friendly to TikTok, and that's all I'm going to get into politics on
Oh
that.
dear. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
But for a time, it wasn't there. But that's just it, is that, a country. So here's an example where the United States said no more TikTok or whatever app that you want to pick and choose. I know that that's not going to stop everybody, because we all know that there's always the dark web, or there's other resources. There's, go Google it. You can find all kinds of ways to get things you're not supposed to get. We're not going to endorse any of that here. But, if I'm a UK citizen, I would think I got to do something other than just throw away my phone and go completely sans digital, like totally
Mhm.
abandon technology. I mean, really, that's if I really want to be private and secure completely, abandon as much digital usage as you possibly can. Because
Go back to the
I don't
pager and a
Analog
date
cell phone.
finder.
I either have the encryption, but now I can't trust the government, or a hacker's going to hack into the government anyway and steal the codes to that backdoor, or we accept the fact that there is going to be no encryption because the government isn't playing nice with the companies, and so now the hackers are going to get it anyway. It's almost a no-win situation.
I think with the UK thing and it becoming public right now, I'm hopeful that they will rethink this policy when it comes to data protection, or not just that their citizens, but anybody that's coming to do business in their country, because they are basically saying that we do not care about the security of our people.
No.
And
It's more arrogant than that. We are the security of our people.
okay, I'll
Yeah,
concede
try
that.
saying that to
Now,
say that to
they
a bunch of
want the
Americans and see what happens.
What's the purpose that they want the backdoor? Is it because they want to be able, like we were talking earlier, they want to be able to collect evidence and prevent crime, or stop large
Similar
crime rings,
to
or things like
Argentina.
that?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
all of it. They just want access so they can let's clear your name by looking into your life.
And this is almost, I mean, this has been a pattern for the UK, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, they have the largest CCTV network known to man, right? I mean,
London.
they have cameras everywhere, and
They're
I
in
mean, this was
competition with Las
also
Vegas.
this was also recent, was they forced Apple to allow third-party app stores, right? Now, I mean, there's other things that go into that, but Apple's
think that
main
was the
defense
EU.
was
That was EU.
EU. Okay. Um, And that was
to
not
kinda
quite the
support.
same thing, but it was similar where Apple was saying, "Hey, we don't allow third-party apps or
Mhm.
third parties, maybe not the right third-party app stores because of security. We don't have a way to vet that."
We are the
It's
App Store.
yeah, right. And so I think I mean, they've been going that way for a while.
Well, it's always that push-pull. Somebody who's in charge wants to stay in charge, and how do they make sure they're doing their job right? By reading the minds of those around them, right? Now, that's not always the case. There's some good, oh, golly, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. There's some good politicians out there. But if you got power, you don't wanna give it up. We got a lot of, we got a lot of people that are career politicians that, again, some are good, but I think you should pass the torch at some point to somebody else. But you don't want to pass the torch because you're in charge.
I think there's just so many so many representations of that in pop culture and films and TV. I mean, I
Well,
think the
it's
idea
an
has been
absolute fact.
explored. Yeah, I mean, it's been explored so much. We always know what happens. It's never good.
We need less Saurons and more Frodos.
As long as I get second breakfast, I'm happy.
What about fourth?
Uh, I gotta find time for that one.
I don't know if fourth is lore accurate at this point.
Yeah, there's so many different directions that um there's so many professions, there's so many different people that once they gain power, they never give it up. There's been so many psychological studies that once you get power, you don't want to give it up. And so if you can throw an AI's worth of compute at your population to see what they're doing and what they're doing wrong, you can establish yourself as the arbiter of truth and righteousness. And whatever you say is absolute. And people don't have a chance to defend themselves. Circumstantial doesn't matter. We got you red-handed with something that we found. Now, okay, let's go another direction with this. Let's say that this is altruistic, that backdoor access is a good thing, right? You've got people with access into your system. They're checking you out, making sure that you're doing everything right. What are the chances that that morality is going to stay exactly as it is? Let's roll back the clock a little bit. Gay rights movement. For a long time, it was not okay to be gay. It was punishable by all kinds of pretty restrictive laws. And now we've figured out, okay, as a society, we've decided this is part of life now. So what if I had an app on everybody's phone to see if they're going against the culture that I've made? What if I've got an app on the phone to go against a religion, against a political party, against a certain idea? And anybody who's espousing that idea or has a joke meme about that, we're going to go talk to them. We're going to go shake them down and see what's going on.
Honestly reminds
we
me
want-
of 1984.
Here's the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, here's the question. Do we want that Pandora's box opened where we're going after the true criminals? Crimes against children, we'll just say that. Crimes against national security, great, let's go after that. But you don't close the door once you got all those taken care of. Now, if you open up that box for one political party, Trump, like him or hate him, I don't care. He's not going to be in power always, and the pendulum swings in the opposite party becomes in control. So if you're for a stance on certain ideas and agendas, at some point you're going to be on the wrong side of that.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah,
not a
it's-
tool we want, guys.
Yeah, and I think that even just, I mean, yeah, you can kind of sum it up as, less power to the man, right? More power to the people. And that's something that, was kind of the US was founded on. But
Mhm.
without necessarily riding on that idea, you can just think of it as well as, I'm also wondering, say you open that up and now the government has access to what everyone's doing, right? Mike, I agree with you in that, like, I mean, most everyone is not a criminal, right? But how many things does everyone do that is maybe a little bit on the line, right?
But everybody, there's no perfect person. Everybody makes a
Mhm.
mistake.
Right.
I've gotten a speeding ticket before. Okay. I'm not a
But you
perfect
spent more than the
driver.
times you got tickets.
It takes, sometimes people just have to learn lessons just by going and doing, and oh, well, that didn't work,
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you need to have the microscope put on you and watched and followed for the rest of your life to see if you're going to be, some kind of a terrorist criminal or something like
Mhm.
that. Most people
So-
just want to live their life and be happy and call
Mhm.
it good,
So
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
hmm
on that, we're already seeing some of the effects of this kind of data gathering. And Mike broached the subject with traffic.
hmm
We've had a bunch of vehicles on the road that monitor your driving habits and then
Oh my
report that
gosh.
back to a central server, and then the data from that server gets sold to insurance companies. So, you might be a good driver, but, you get into a car with somebody who is not so good a driver, and your phone is connected with this service as well. So,
I remember jumping into a car and riding with somebody here in Cheyenne. This is a number of years ago, and he got a little driving monitor. And it was through the insurance company because the sales pitch is that if you drive with this and prove that you're a good driver and don't have any yellow or red incidences that pop up on or whatever, you get a discount on your insurance. You're supposedly saving a ton of money on your insurance.
Yeah, no, you're not.
But
and
yeah, insurance is that's a whole other
Well-
ball of wax too. So
and that kind of stuff does not take into account factors. It's like, oh, well, you went off the road while you're driving down this road, and it's like it was, January 3rd, and the road was icy, and I stepped on the brakes, but the car kept going, so I went off the road,
right.
but then I got back on the road.
Yeah.
Or somebody suddenly
and-
stopped in front of me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there was an
I-
emergency vehicle.
hmm
Yeah,
It doesn't
I can tell
care
you all-
about what the data actually was in response to. It just cares that the data's there.
It's out of context.
Correlation is not causation. And
So-
just
And,
because you got a
that's the
snapshot
problem
of
is
somebody's-
so much of this data is out of context.
Yeah.
To really analyze the data, you have to analyze not just the data itself, but everything around it to get the context of why things
Mike,
happen the way they did.
That's why they
Yeah.
need to watch every move you make. So they know the context, and they can then punish you for the context as well. Even
Right.
if you're innocent.
And then it's filtered through the glasses of whoever's looking at the information.
Yep.
The quote that comes to mind with that: "Truth is a three-bladed sword, or three-sided sword. There's your side, their side, and the truth."
Mhm.
And that's kind of what gets gathered there. Is
Well,
Yeah.
But again, you're not going to get the truth when you have that much data. Yes, the truth is in that data, but humans can interpret it. Or heaven help us, an AI is going to interpret it, which was programmed by humans. which has a bias. It is absolutely fact that every AI out there has a bias. So now we're going to be subject to that bias. Well, I say we've got a pretty solid system that's lasted us several hundred years, innocent until proven guilty, and you got to have probable cause before you start snooping into somebody's life. We've got a fantastic opportunity of data mining and resources. We haven't even figured out, should insurance have access to this information yet? We haven't figured out, should advertisers have access to this information? They do. I mean, how many times have you been talking about going to McDonald's and all of a sudden there's an ad for McDonald's?
I got into
I
an
was talking with a
argument
marketing
years
guy.
ago with somebody about that. I was saying, don't talk around your phone, or at least just like turn it off, because they listen. And I was being told, you're crazy. Now it's like 10
Yeah,
years
no.
later. And yeah, it's proven that even back then, the early smartphones were listening to your conversations, even when you did not have it on a call.
Yep. There's many stories of that. I think I mentioned on this podcast before, but I talked to some of the contractors working on my house. Took time to practice my Spanish. So hanging out, helping them out, moving stuff around because, hey, I want to learn. I want to see how this is done. And I'm not just going to sit back and watch somebody else work. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get dirty too. After 3 days of helping them, YouTube was offering me ads in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk to my phone in Spanish. I didn't look up anything in Spanish. These guys weren't on my Wi-Fi. They were geographically there, but other than that, my phone should have only been giving me what the algorithm found for me. And apparently, me talking Spanish was added to the algorithm.
How long did that last?
I got that for about a month.
Yeah, I've had the same thing happen to me. I speak Portuguese and Spanish, and I've had, and it doesn't happen as much with Portuguese. I'll say, if I've had days where I've talked with some friends that I know that speak Portuguese, have a full-on conversation, and I don't see a lot from Portuguese, but Spanish, as soon as I do anything in Spanish, oh my gosh, everything is immediately YouTube. Google will start showing me ads. It's just all over. So I mean, it's such a thing, and I don't know. Have they found? I'm curious to know where it is that is being processed, because I'm not sure anyone has found and pointed to it and say, "Look, here is the code. Here's where it's running through it all," and parsing your speech.
Well, that's
I mean,
that's
has
where
that been? Go ahead.
nobody has tracked, actual numbers, at least that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
But that goes to, we're putting faith and trust into Google, into Apple, into all the big tech companies, that they're going to respect our privacy and not use it in unkind ways. But they do.
I know
We
you just
put-
you have to think it's the same thing. I mean, the UK has been telling companies for who knows how long, "Hey, give us all this data and don't tell anybody." I mean, you just don't know. You don't know what they're doing because you don't know if they've been told not to tell you.
Don't know what other countries have that kind of rule in place.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see legislation that says it's our data. We get to choose who, where, why, how, all those things. We get to choose where that data goes. I generated it. It's mine. Don't I get artistic license on this stuff?
And no EULA can say you willingly give it up.
I'm going to DMCA it.
Well, the
I want
EU does
royalties
have
on it.
a law kind of like that. It's the right to be forgotten. And it's, in my opinion, it is great legislation because any person can contact any online entity and demand that any information about them be taken down, so long as it's not a like news article type thing.
Can you send that to the IRS?
IRS isn't part of the E EU.
I want a button
Ugh.
though. I'll tell you, I want a button. I do not want to have to be online with some AI chatbot for 20 minutes before I can talk to somebody to say, hey, delete my information. I want a button on my account settings that says delete my account. That's all I want. I can't tell you how many sites I've tried to go to and do that because I've realized, oh shoot, I used that password on this other account and this I'm never going to use this account ever again, and now they have my password sitting out there. It's only a matter of time before it gets leaked. And so, I mean,
But now you know better, and you use separate passwords for everything, right?
I do, of course.
Okay.
But there are times that they overlap, and so
Mm-hmm.
but usually I cover my tracks. If I need an account for something, I use it until I'm done, and then I'll go back and say, all right, you don't get to keep any of my data. But there are some that do not have delete my account. And then you find out, like, well, that's it. I'll never get that back. It's there, they have it, and I can't get rid of it.
Yep.
So that will be my vote for most wanted legislation for tonight.
I think there are actually laws like that in place right now. It's just nobody honors them.
Yeah.
It could be that, yeah. Or
Consequence.
What's
Go
that?
ahead.
I was just gonna say, or it falls under the thing where, well, you can call us and have us, delete your account. And at that point, I'm like, all right, well, it's not that worth it to me at this point for me to be on the line with you for an hour.
Well, and it's going to get worse because there's counties right now. If you file a FOIA request, you have to pay for it. Like if you want body cam footage, there's places that's now charge $75 an hour to process your request because they simply don't have the staff to process that. If we get to a certain point where all the data that has been mined from us, if we're asking people to delete it, it's going to be a laborious process for them to go in and delete John and Jackson's information from that website. Now they're going to charge us money to delete our data. We got to get protections in here.
Something like the EU law.
Something like
it's the onus is on the people that have the data to get rid of it in a timely and a respectable way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
they gathered it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to be talking outside of my knowledge and scope here. Once again, go figure. But I think a lot of this stemmed from, I don't know, let's just take Google, for example. Google wanted to start capturing data, and then they realized you need a lot of infrastructure for that. You need ginormous server, buildings to house all of that data. And then you realize, okay, well, now the people want control over their data. Now we have to set up that infrastructure. It's all cost money, and holding that data is a massive loss to them unless they are monetizing it. And thus was born, you're being sold. Your data is being sold because they want it, but it's also a massive loss to them. So they monetize it somehow.
I hate to say it, Jackson, you have those the cause and effect backwards.
Probably, yeah.
That Google was harvesting information from search to then give advertisers, and they broadened their product to gain more data on people to give better advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's Google's goal is they're mining the data for one goal only: better advertising, so they can make more money. Period. What are the products we can generate to help the world be a better place and make a few bucks in the process? Well, that's the American dream right there. Make a few bucks. Make the world a better place.
Well, you don't really make the world a better place with advertising. But
depends on the ad.
The thing that just boggles me, my brain doesn't function like other people. Advertising doesn't work on me. I mean, yes, I'm not immune to propaganda, but I'm more immune than a lot of other people that I know. So, advertising, I just don't understand. The ad pops up, I'm less likely to be interacting with the company that pops up in that ad because the ad is an annoyance to me.
There are some ads that absolutely turn me off forever to a certain product or a company. Like, that was a stupid ad. I'm never buying that.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that, but in general, um, I know there are a lot of other people out there like me that advertising is just like, why did you spend like $15 million to do that during the Super Bowl? That just makes absolutely no sense to me. So
My
you
favorite
know,
thing to do is to forget the company names so that their advertising had zero effect on me.
that could work too. That could work too.
Love the meme of like, you've interrupted my video. Now I hate your product.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't they don't grasp that. But again, if advertising functioned on everybody else like it does on me, then it wouldn't be out there as a product. It functions enough that I mean, what is the click-through rate on most ads? Like
It it only needs
0.001%?
it only needs to recoup its
It's
own cost.
Yeah.
well, and it's another piece to that. What does Dell make?
Computers,
These
What does HP make?
printers, and computers.
Monitors.
Quality is job. Come on. Quality is job.
No,
One?
it doesn't work
Right.
on me.
Who's that
'Cause-
coming from?
No, it's safety first. See,
Safety first. There you go.
I come from a different background, so
No, it was Ford's thing for a long time. Quality is job one.
yeah, I do remember that though.
It's branding. It's not that an advertisement is going to sway your decision on the next thing you buy.
Mhm.
It's when you get the McDonald's or Burger King branded into your brain, the jingle, the colors, whatever it is. Once that's in there, you've got them. Like them or
Right.
hate them, they now have an opinion, and it's better to have an informed customer who has decided that they never want your product, or that they will probably think about it next time they're going to buy a car or computer.
I'll tell you right now, there is a car. What do they call it? Like a car lot. That's not a car lot. What do you call them? A
Dealership.
dealership. Thank you. There is a dealership around where I live, and they're fairly large, and so they have several billboards around town that there's not a car in sight. There's nothing. It's literally the color of the company and some random message, and they actually like make me angry. I see them and I'm like, that is such a waste of space for you to not like. I don't even know what you are, but now I know. Someone has told me, oh, they're a dealership, and I know that company name now, and it makes me mad that I know who they are, just because they put up their brand everywhere. And so
Right.
it is a thing, and as much as
And
I'd like
those-
to think it's not, it is.
Those things are worth billions, not millions, billions of dollars to these companies. Because
Mhm.
if they can sway your opinion to have, I'm going to go get Orange Julius. Are they still around?
I think so.
If I'm going to go buy something, let's say Radio Shack, there's a couple Radio Shacks still around.
I miss
But they
it.
were
I want to
big.
buy a Radio Shack.
I'll take one.
I could use one.
I miss Radio Shack.
I do
I
too.
do too.
I miss the old Radio Shack where you could
Mhm.
buy electronic parts.
Mhm. Yep.
You know what's funny? I found on campus there was a box of old, like really old Radio Shack parts that were still in the packages.
Ooh,
And
new old
the-
stock.
Like yeah, and it's like the old, like probably when Radio Shack first opened. I don't even know how old they are, but it's like these components from. Looks like it's from the 50s, but I don't know how old Radio Shack is. But crazy old stuff.
Yeah, they came up with their own brand for a while. Radio Shack was really good at doing a thing. The problem is the world moved past that, and Radio Shack didn't evolve to the next level.
Mhm.
So hobbyists would buy cables and knobs and switches and ICs and just you could toy things together. But when we came up with the little microchips from China that cost 5 cents, when Arduinos hit the market, all that stuff was obsolete. Hobbyists no longer build circuit boards. Hobbyists build modular chip and package designs. They buy hats for their pies. They buy, anyway. So they didn't evolve fast enough, and they weren't ahead of the curve, and they bet on the wrong direction. But the point is, Google supports advertising at a grand level, and they set the goal on us to find out, are we a hobbyist or not? Do we get a Radio Shack ad or not? What is the goal of a government getting hold of all of our data? It's not advertising. What's the goal of a hacker getting all of our data? It's not
Blackmail, usually.
advertising. You know, there's so many directions this goes. They go for a goal.
Yeah.
I want control over where my data goes. But guys, this has been a fantastic discussion. Do we have any parting thoughts? Mike, I think I cut you off there.
No, just I hope the people in the UK can figure out what to do, and hopefully through the right process they can make their voices heard, maybe, you know, change some things in the government, maybe get them to rethink their this idea, and hopefully it doesn't, hopefully it's not a change that comes about because something malicious ends up happening because of this. I don't like seeing people go through, misery and pain of, being ransomwared or, having some other kind of a cyber attack. It doesn't look like fun. But maybe that's the wake-up call. Maybe if a few of these politicians get attacked themselves, then they realize, well, it's because my iPhone doesn't have encryption anymore. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to take, but I hope people can turn it around over there and let common sense prevail.
Well, I think the number one thing anybody can do, get involved. Make phone calls, send emails, write letters, old school letters. Get your voice heard to those that are making decisions. Because the more of us making a statement, making a stand, the better it is. If none of us make a stand, people are going to make laws, they're going to make decisions in isolation, uninformed, and it's going to have serious consequence.
Yeah, I think you said exactly what I would have said is, you need to make your voice heard. I think we're in the minority of people that understand the implications of what all of this means, and I think if you understand it, you gotta make that known.
And you definitely got to raise it up to the food chain instead of complain to your peers. So, UK, raise it up the food chain. Rattle the cages. Let everybody know your feelings on the subject. I don't know what your feelings are. Maybe you'll enjoy this. I hope not. Until next time, though,
At least
I hope this gets
share
better.
our podcast.
Yeah. We're on a drive to, I really never wanted to do this, but we're on a drive to add subscribers. So the more you can like and share and subscribe, the better it does for us. We're trying to grow this out and, have our conversation with people. We got some great comments before. Please leave a comment on this one. Love to hear your thoughts on this. But until next time. And that reminds me. Next time is going to be a new day, a new time. We're going back to our Thursdays. So we're going to go live on Thursdays. We're going to broadcast. We'll post it up on the various channels on Friday mornings. So tune in at your favorite podcast source. If we're not there, let us know, and we'll try and get onto that platform. Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
I am going to quote one of the great philosophers of our age. I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together.
Yeah, it's awesome. Have a good night, everybody.